Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to today's media conference to preview the England squad ahead of the forthcoming autumn internationals against Andorra and Hungary. Joined here by Gareth Southgate. As ever, we'll start shortly with Sky Sports News and Kaveh Solikol. After that, if you can raise your virtual hand, we'll work our way around the room. Ideally, if it's one question per person with the option of a follow-up, that'd be much appreciated. So, Kaveh, whenever you're ready, we'll get underway.
First of all, Gareth, Fikayo Tomori is back in your squad. How impressed have you been with the way he's been playing for AC Milan?
Yeah, very impressed, Kaveh. I thought he finished last season well, and we were tracking him closely at the end of last season, and he started well again this season. He's playing at a club who there's an expectation to win every week, so he's performing under pressure. I thought he did very well at Liverpool in the Champions League game, and his next game was Juventus, so he's had big matches as well as the general league games. And I like Fikayo in terms of his aggressiveness of his defending. Because he's got speed, he's confident enough to defend on the front foot. And his use of the ball is improving all the time as well. So I think the move, obviously Milan have been delighted with him. They've ended up buying him, and it's been a really good experience for him.
And Ollie Watkins is back in as well. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, I think we would have selected Ollie last month, but he was injured. He was very close to making the squad for the Euros. I think he's still getting back to full fitness at Villa, we know, but he's a striker who I loved his mentality when he was working with us. He didn't come in and have a look at things and dip a toe in the water. He was really determined to take the opportunity whenever he trained with the group, whenever he was on the pitch. We've got some, good centre forward options. A couple missing with injury, but Ollie impressed us with his mentality and his ability when he was with us.
Aaron Ramsdale is also back in. It looks like in place of Nick Pope. Is that just down to the fact that he's made such an impact since he's moved to Arsenal?
Yeah, again, Aaron was with us all summer, so we had the opportunity to work with him for a long period of time and get to understand his strengths. Nick is still, I think, coming back from the injury he had a little bit, and I think Aaron is just in a better vein of form at the moment. And from Aaron's perspective, I think the move to a club again with high expectation, a style of play where he's asked to build with his feet from the back, which is, he's coping with really well, and I think is an important factor for us when I look at the biggest matches in particular, to be able to do that from the goalkeeper. So he's really adapted well to that move. His performances this season have been full of confidence.
We were maybe expecting Mason Mount and Reece James to miss out through injury. They're both in the squad. Can you just give us an update on the situation regarding those two players, and also Luke Shaw as well, who hasn't been playing for Manchester United?
Yeah, I mean, clearly they've still to appear for their clubs, so there's an element of the unknown with that. But our understanding is that Mason and Reece have a good chance for the weekend. We'll have to track that. And I think Luke's was more of an illness than anything else, was our understanding. So again, we don't play until next Saturday, our first game, so there's a bit of time, and we'll know more as this week progresses on all of those situations, really.
And two names who are not included, Jude Bellingham and also Mason Greenwood. What's the thinking behind their omissions?
Yeah, well, they don't come as a pair, but they're both similar situations in that they're young players with a heavy load at the moment. I've spoken with both of the players, and both feel, Jude at the moment has got a high level of matches. He's playing Champions League games, he's playing league games. As an 18-year-old, he had a full season last season, then into European Championship, so no break. We have to remember that these lads are still physically growing. So when we're talking about young player development, we've got to be really careful how we handle them and make sure that these are two players we think can be really exciting players for England for the future. But we don't want to overload them, and we've got to be making sure we make the right decisions. So they're very much decisions that have been taken with me having conversations with the players and their families, rather than any sort of deal with the club. I think both clubs we have very good relationships with, and we've spoken to about the situations, but they're not. It's not a deal with the club. It's very much us looking at young players. And normally with these sorts of things, these players would be in our under 18s, 19s, 20s. These sorts of things happen all the time. But of course, the profile of these two boys is much higher. They're both playing very well. So I can understand why people would raise their eyes. It's not a case that we don't think the players deserve to be in the squad. We'd be picking them if we didn't have those longer term aims and ambitions in mind, I think.
Can I just ask two more questions? The first one about Harry Kane. Obviously, we all know what he does for England. I think he scored in 15 qualifying games in a row. But are you at all concerned about his club form? I don't think he scored in the league for Spurs this season. And a lot of people are saying that he doesn't seem to be himself. He kind of seems to be out of sorts. Although, obviously, Spurs aren't playing particularly well at the moment either.
Yeah, I can only talk from an England perspective, and every couple of months I think I sit here and have to answer similar questions, and then Harry goes out and scores a load of goals for us. So it's the life of being a high-profile player. You've got to accept that there's going to be that speculation and that intensity of analysis of your performances. Last month we had 3 games. He appeared in all 3 and scored a goal in each. So from our perspective, he continues to be such a critical part of what we do and an important player. And I'm sure he's going to be highly motivated when he comes to see us next week. He's closing in on a number of incredible goal scorers. We obviously had the sad news about Jimmy Greaves in the last couple of weeks, and Harry is in those echelons of incredible names that have scored a lot of goals for England. So he's got a lot of personal motivation with that. But of course, he also will recognise we're still 8 points minimum to qualify for the World Cup, and we've got a job to do in that regard.
Just the final one from me. I think for the first time today, we've seen a football fan going to prison for abusing a professional footballer online. I just wanted to ask you if you thought that was a sign of progress. Does that show that steps are being taken to eliminate racism from social media and also from football and society as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I've only just learned about the specifics of the case, or I'm not aware of all the specifics of the case, but the sentence. So, yeah, look, I think all I would say is that it's important that we do take the online abuse, the abuse in general society very seriously. I think we're recognising the importance of that. We want a tolerant society, and I think that's where we're heading. So, yeah, for me, they're the important messages at this time.
Thanks, Carve. Next, we'll go to Kerry Brown of beIN Sports.
Hello, Gareth. We've seen what a sensation that Saka has been for England. A lot of the Arsenal fans will be disappointed not to see Emile Smith-Rowe. They have such a great chemistry on the pitch together. Can you explain that?
Well, he's a player we like a lot, and very close to making this squad. I'm conscious. I mean, we've talked about 2 young players we're managing carefully, and we've brought a lot of youngsters up, and that isn't straightforward. Sometimes you want to bring them with the seniors, and there may be a need for them to go back to the under-21s, and so at this moment in time, I don't want to bring any more, unless we need to, any more younger players out of the under-21s. I think they've got to earn that right over a little bit longer period. This is a fairly settled squad. We know that some players aren't playing as often as we would ideally like, but we're only 6 or 7 games into the season. So I'm trying to respect a squad that got us to a final, not make too many changes to that, make sure that young players really have to earn the right to come in. Emil unfortunately wasn't able to play with the under-21s last time, and had to go back. So I thought his performance against Tottenham was very good. We know how he finished last season as well. I can only say he's a player we like, and he's very close.
There have been some exceptional performances from young players, as you talk about, looking to the future. Jacob Ramsey, who seems to be fitting in very well for a big figure like Jack Grealish, Conor Gallagher. Ben White had a really difficult start, but he's really coming back into his own. Is this a player you'll show faith in again in the future?
Yeah, again, I think Ben performed well against Tottenham at the weekend. I think still settling into a new club, and but Sunday's performance showed good signs. We obviously liked what we saw to pick him ahead of the summer, and he's definitely a player we're monitoring closely. So yeah, he's heading in a good direction. He's got a lot of the attributes we like. There's areas of his game he knows that we've talked about, we think he can improve upon. But yeah, he would have been very close to this squad as well, yeah.
And Mason Mount, just showing for Chelsea how incremental he is and important to a team. Chelsea seem to be really missing out on him. So vital you have him for this fortnight.
Well, we hope so. I think we've never hidden our admiration for what he brings to the team and the ability he has. So we don't need to be sold on that. We're hoping that the injury that he's sustained is not too serious, and that he's back in the fold for the weekend. But we've got a lot of good players. We're delighted that Phil Foden's back playing. We definitely were disappointed not to have him available for the final. So good that he's back and looking in good form. And in those attacking areas, we've got a lot of competition for places.
Thanks, Kerry. Next we'll go to Alex Howell of BBC Sport.
Hi, Gareth. This squad seems settled, like you just said. Are you happy with how the team is progressing? How much easier does it make it for you when you've got that core group of players from one group to the next?
Well, I think there should be some consistency, which doesn't mean that we're closed to players who are in good form. That's why Fikayo's in, that's why Aaron Ramsdale is in. So we're always looking at what are the right decisions. But this core group, there's 8 or 9 in particular who got us to a World Cup semi-final and then a European Championship semi-final, and others have to earn the right to push them out. And I thought the way that they responded in September to a long summer with highs and lows, I thought was very, very impressive. I liked the mentality of the whole group. But we're not going to sit and accept that. We've got to now push each time we're together. We've got to push performance every day on the training pitch. And so, yes, we've kept some stability, which I think is right. But every player in that team and in that squad knows that there's huge competition for places. And I think that's driving some of the performances that we have. And
with those performances, Harry Maguire's not in, but Tyrone Mings is in the squad. Obviously, he played those first 2 games at Euro 2020 and kept the clean sheets. How do you think he's done this season, and does it give you confidence that you have him to come in?
Well, I think if we're frank, there's been a bit of a mixed bag club-wise this season. I think he knows that, but he dealt brilliantly with the really a real step up in terms of the profile of game he had to deal with us, to play opening match of a European Championship at home, and then to play an England-Scotland game in a European Championship at home. You know, two of the highest profile games you're going to have to deal with. So given he's not been able to play European club football or anything like that, they were a bit of a step into the unknown for him. He dealt with it brilliantly, and you know, that really set us on our way as a team for the tournament, that defensive stability. So yeah, he's clearly a player that we know we can trust at this level, and I think he's raised his game whenever he's been asked by us.
Thanks, Alex. Next we'll go to Nizar Kinsella from Goal.com.
Hi, Gareth. I wanted to ask you about Thomas Tuchel's comments that Ben Chilwell was mentally tired after the Euros. I was wondering, kind of what you made of that, and what you've made of his inability to get going this season after the summer.
Well, there's no hiding that Ben had a difficult summer with us. You know, he would have been disappointed not to play as often as he would have liked. There were specific reasons for that when we played Kieran Trippier, and of course Luke Shaw was one of the outstanding players for us in the tournament. So, you know, I said to Ben at the end of that tournament, I knew that would have been a hard experience with the period of isolation he had to have as well after the Scotland game. And I think what he has to do is fight now to get back in. You know, when you have these disappointments as a player, you have the opportunity to roll your sleeves up and show your character, and I'm sure he's going to do that and force his way back into Chelsea's team, which I think at the moment, you know, he had 45 minutes last night, and he had the cup game last week, but at the moment, getting back in that team is the priority, really, I think.
Thanks, Nizar. Next we'll go to Jack Rosser from the Evening Standard.
Hi, Gareth. Declan Rice has become a key player for you and a leader at West Ham as well. But there were some comments from Leonardo Bonucci yesterday implying that he was a bit naive over the summer, saying that England were 10 times more ready for the game than Italy. And Bonucci has said he was a bit presumptuous and sort of putting himself on a higher level than Italy. What's your sort of response to that? And do you agree or not?
Well, yeah, I wasn't aware at the time of the story, so that was the first I'd seen of it when it was brought to my attention yesterday. I suppose it's a reminder that you always have to bear in mind whatever you say when you speak publicly, it can be used as motivation for an opponent, and we've done that in the past and it's benefited us. So I'm sure, yeah, sometimes those things can be taken slightly out of context as well, and that can make it seem even more inflammatory. So I'm sure if that was the case, Declan will have learned from that situation.
It's not something, you know, maybe it can be used as inspiration, but that's sort of his mentality, isn't it? That's not something you'd want him to lose.
Oh, well, I don't really know what he said and exactly how it was pitched, and you know what was 5 minutes before it and 5 minutes after it that gave it the context. So, but I do know that as a manager that wouldn't bother you, because you'd just stick something on the dressing room door and use it for your own ends. So we've got to be savvy enough to understand that, and clearly the Italians maybe used it. I mean, the game was a draw. We have to remember the game was a draw. So although they were worthy winners of the tournament, I don't think that will be was the bit that made the difference. I think was a lot more to the outcome of the final than that.
Thanks, Jack. Next we'll go to Graham Smythe from the Yorkshire Post.
Hi, Gareth. What were your conclusions on Patrick Bamford from his time with you in the last camp, and what was your plan for him this time round before he got injured?
Well, I thought clearly he enjoyed being with us. He fitted in well with the group. We knew Patrick anyway from from our time with the under-21s. So for us, you know, it wasn't the first time we'd worked with him, and it wasn't the first time for him with a number of the players that he was with in that period as well. In terms of plans, we don't make the plans that far in advance, because I think he's been out for a couple of weeks already. You know, we're always assessing the squad, but we never have that sort of final decision on where we might be heading until a week before this day, really, because things change so quickly, injuries occur, so we can never finalise things. You know, we might have an idea in our head of the team we'd like to play next week, but that can easily change in the next 3 days, or it can change next week when we're together. Circumstance often dictates that, so I can't give you a definitive as to how we saw this month. We're waiting to see how he came through, how he played for his club, and how that mapped against others that would be in the frame, I think.
Okay, thanks, Graham. There are no further hands raised, so we'll conclude this section of the media conference there. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.